Hello and welcome back to another episode number 35 of Missed Mando, Ontario's source for the latest in the disc golf world. I am your host, Galen Naidoo-Harris, joined by my friend and co-host, Sean Galbraith. Another no Robbie episode, so life is good. Quality is off the charts, cannot complain. We're holding down the fort in his absence. Shawnee G, how are you doing? What have you been up to since our last episode, my friend?
Doing fantastic, Galen. Thank you for asking. Was out in Dieppe, New Brunswick last weekend for the Dieppe Open. We're gonna have special coverage of that next week on a special episode. But man, what a tournament it was. Huge props to Luc Richard, the Dieppe Disc Golf Club, and everybody out there who put on a fantastic event. It was the very first A tier that New Brunswick has ever had. I'm wearing my tournament shirt here. The tournament was elevated by ThoughtSpace and sponsored by Greenfoot Energy. Man, the weather was horrible. Maybe some of the worst weather conditions I've played in. Pouring rain, freezing cold, just windy as all hell. It was a blast. Strangely, my best of the 3 rounds was in the worst weather condition when I couldn't feel my hand putting. It was just it was absolute misery, but
well, you know what that feels like is I don't know about you, but for me, I find I putt better playing glowy sometimes because I can't see the disc. I wonder if there's you know what? I can't even feel the disc. What could go wrong element to it?
Yeah, I honestly don't know what it was. But it was such a fantastic time that there's absolutely zero complaints. So very glad that we were able to go out for that event. I took last cash in my division, tied for 7th. There wasn't any actual, merch out or whatever, but who cares? Would have been $7 if it had been. But man, the course was super fun, challenging, but with very fair pars. It was a safari layout. And a mix of heavily wooded and more park style golf. What a fantastic event, fantastic disc golf community out there. And I hear that they're going to be trying to put in a bid for the 2027 Canadian Nationals. And if that's the case, I will absolutely be there. Definitely would go back to New Brunswick to play more golf. Galen, what have you been up to?
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I've heard nothing but fantastic things about that tournament. It seemed like a lot of GTA representation out in Dieppe, so I have had no shortage of stories that I've been regaled with about it. But I love that you had a blast too. I've played 2 tournaments since we last recorded. I played La Légende 2025, le Circuit 10 Québec, présenté par Innova, at the Saint Bernard de la Colle disc golf course just outside of Montreal. This is my first tournament I played outside of Ontario, so kicking it off with a couple of non-Ontario disc golf tournament recaps, you and I are. And I had a blast, man. I am very rusty bilingual, as in I went to French immersion and lived in Quebec very briefly and haven't spoken French daily in 10 years. But my card mates were so welcoming. All the language, the disc golf lingo, the jargon was all the exact same, which was hilarious. In French, it's heiser, just little things like that where I'm this, it was easy for me to pick up, and all the guys there were a blast. The guy who was running the tournament, the life of me, I cannot remember his name, had just such fun energy. Everything was done at the top of his lungs. So I was coming up from my car, my GPS took me to the wrong side of the highway. I was freaking out. I wasn't going to make it. And then as I'm getting out and getting ready to run up, I hear players meeting again in English, but from 250 meters away. This man is in another zip code and I can hear him. And everything was done with so much enthusiasm. The course was awesome. There were a few little holes that were a few longer holes that were, 350, 400-ish, but it was mostly just tight, wooded fairways, my favorite type of golf. I don't always do well playing it. Like I always have fun. And I finished tied for ninth out of 42, 44 players. So I felt really good about that. Continued my streak of cashing at cashing, not for real cash because we're AMs, but like receiving merch outs for every performance so far this year. So I think I averaged about a 900 for that, which is, healthily above my rating. So I was happy with that. Had a complete blast. And then, the following weekend, last weekend, as we're recording this, was the Blackfly Fling, which I played last year and had so much fun at and was like, I need to go back. And, God bless my wife, who is very pregnant right now. I was like, sort of just like talking about how I thought it might be, fun to go, but like, it doesn't make sense for us for obvious reasons. She's like, no, it'd be fun. Let's go camping. It's like, okay. So at, 36 weeks pregnant, we were camping in a tent in the woods, and it was actually really fun. I was mostly, even though obviously you're away during the day for tournaments, just enjoying like camping with my wife and dog. And then that course is such a blast. The wind was ripping, on day 2. So it was like very, dubious conditions. I heard there was an ace that, for those that know, the course Blackfly Fling is played at, Tom Thompson Park, there's one where you're throwing, it's like 200 some odd feet, throwing directly over the water with, a basket up over a beach on the left. So, you're throwing like with a ton of wind whipping up off the water and like just insane, like beautiful conditions. But anyway, somebody threw an ace that went and hit the tree above this hanging basket, fell down, and had like fallen like in front of the basket. But there was so much wind, it blew back into the basket for an ace. Like just the most insane stuff, I have seen. And again, another tournament where like I perform well. I won up myself, missing provincials by 1 stroke at King's Forest earlier this year, by missing provincials by 2 strokes, finishing 4th when a podium spot would have gotten me a ticket for this fall. But I had some great rounds, averaged 902, 903, which again, for me, I'm never complaining about. Played on some like absolutely awesome cards. Vibes were off the charts, and Micah Streeter always puts on an incredible event. So, I've been playing more disc golf than I had been the last 2 weeks. I've been having a lot of fun doing it. And, so yeah, life's been good on the disc golf front. And this is where we would normally throw to our feature interview, a little peek behind the curtain. We were going to have Raven Klein on with us, and we did, but there were some major technical difficulties that Sean and I are not apparently well educated in the technology enough to troubleshoot, so we didn't get any usable interview out of it. We look forward to having her on a future episode. I'm hoping we'll have her on next week's episode if we can find a time that works, because we're really enjoying the conversation. But unfortunately, that means we're going to be bereft of a feature interview this episode, and bereft, of course, of Robbie. So you're stuck with Sean and I talking trash, a little sided disc golf. And with that said, Sean, my friend, why don't we throw over to you? We're going to hop into some news, and I know it is going to make you happy. The first topic here, we're talking about rules. Take us through it.
Yes, we are. The Pdga has released the draft of the 2026 proposed rule changes. They're out for public comment now. Going to drop a link in the show notes. Now, since most of our listener doesn't play on the Pro Tour quite yet, here are a few of the proposed changes that will affect everyday tournament players. There are more changes that will affect sort of elite and major players, but we won't deal with those. So, first is the proverbial 30-second rule. That is being modified. So currently, you have 30 seconds, as everybody knows, to throw regardless of where your disc lies or lands. That is as proposed to change to 30 seconds or 45 seconds, depending on the circumstance. Specifically, if you are on the tee pad or at a drop zone or within circle 2 or closer to the basket, you have 30 seconds. The thinking is these are shots that you can prepare for. T-pad, just a drive. Drop zone, it's just a drive. And within circle 2, you can practice those. Nothing unpredictable there. Everything else is 45 seconds. So if you're on the fairway, if you're in a bush, whatever, 45 seconds is the new time. They also provide clarification as to when does the clock actually start. They've now included things like addressing your lie starts when you get to your disc, you see your disc there, and you pull out a rangefinder to find out what the distance is. Or you've put your marker down, you put your mini down, your clock is now starting. If you can get your foot in there and you put a supporting point, your clock is started. It will hopefully speed things up. So there's no question as to when the clock has started. So, definitely check out those and see if there's there shouldn't be any more confusion as to when the clock starts. But if there is still, definitely send a message to the PDGA and say, hey, what about this? Next, there is a mistaken interpretation of the rules that the benefit goes to the player. That doesn't actually exist. It's more of the tie goes to the player. And so they are clarifying this one as well. What they don't want is a scenario where, let's say it's you and your buddy or you and your brother or whatever, and it's a 4-person card, and it's like, hey friend, vote for me on this rule interpretation. And all you needed to do is convince one person, and now the rule that you now have a tied situation, so the tie goes to the player. Well, that's not going to be the case, because now the player in question does not get a vote on the first round. This will ensure that there are no ties unless you're playing on a 3-person card or a 5-person card where there's an even number of voters who are not you, in which case then you would be voting to break the tie, and presumably you'd be voting in your favor. It's not the benefit to the player, it is the tie goes to the player. This will hopefully remove collusion from circumstances that doesn't, I hope, come up very often, but not 0 times. It also clarifies that that the other players must vote. Cannot abstain from the vote, anything like that. You must vote, and if you don't, it is a courtesy violation. You have responsibilities as players to make decisions on the card, and this enforces that. Next, provisional throws. They've just deleted the entire section on provisional throws and replaced it with a brand new one that is so much more explanatory than it was before. It used to be, it was like 2 lines. It was like, yeah, you can call a provisional if you think it will save time, and the card agrees, or if there's a rule question. That's now it's it's got 6 subsections. It tells you for the first time how you have to communicate that you are throwing a provisional, and specifically why you are throwing a provisional. You no longer have to get the card's approval to throw a provisional for time savings. That's been thrown out. But it provides much better direction, and it requires you to communicate ahead of time before you get to the disc, if it's a time-saving one, why you are throwing the provisional and what happens based on the 2 different possible results. So there's no question as to the potential results. It also provides direction as to when you cannot call a provisional. So it says for the first time, it clarifies you cannot throw a provisional if you might have missed a Mando. It also says that you can't call a provisional if you're considering abandoning the throw. Or you can't throw a provisional if the only issue is whether or not a penalty throw applies. That is more of an appeal situation. And so the provisional section is much better communicated and significantly expanded. And I know this came up on Reddit and some other places. I was in the Reddit discussion. Frankly, I was totally wrong and a bit of a jerk about it in that discussion. And I am very happy to see this expanded provisional section. I think it clarifies things quite a bit. There's also a new Q&A section as it gives an example of how you would use a provisional, and it's significantly improved, and I'm glad to see that. Next, it clarifies a little bit more about casual objects and what can be moved. It gives some more examples like unconnected branches or debris, or even says pine cones, and things that you can move if it's in your lie, or not move if it's furniture and such. It also says that that a casual object cannot be, quote, embedded in the playing surface. And this one I might submit a comment about, because how deep into the earth does something have to be embedded? How much, like, you have to like visibly strain to extract it, like Excalibur from a stone, before it can no longer be moved, or what? I don't know. I don't know if this needs further clarification. It also helps clarify that when you have a 2-meter rule violation, 2-meter rule isn't usually in effect in Ontario, but if it was, it clarifies that you can, after you take your 2-meter penalty, you mark your disc below, you can then take optional relief back on line of play from that point, just like you could with an out of bounds throw. This was always in the rules, but it was in different sections of the rule book, and so it was a bit confusing to try and link the two sections. This puts it all in one nice spot. Fantastic. A couple other little things. It now gives the authority to tournament directors to ban smoking at B and C tiers. It was previously only really banned at A tiers, but now TDs will be able to say no. And then it also provides additional clarification on out of bounds. So, like, let's say everybody knows this guy. This guy is like, okay, my disc landed on a rock in the middle of a creek. It's not touching the water. Ha ha ha, it's dry. No, your disc is out of bounds, obviously. That's no. Or my disc landed on the road is OB. My disc landed on a road, but there's like a blade of grass that has fallen over and is just like, my disc is just touching the blade of grass, but it's totally, obviously it's on the road, but the grass is inbounds. And so, no, your disc is very clearly out of bounds. They've clarified it that the out of bounds line is an imaginary vertical plane, similar to how they're thinking of Mandos. And if you break that plane, your disc is out of bounds. So that'll be nice. We won't have to deal with that crap anymore. It's the clarification is very welcome. One more tiny little thing. If you're a 935 player and you want to play an MPO at a major or elite event, well, you can't anymore. The minimum rating for that is now, or is going to be, 950. So throw better. Galen, how do you like in these proposed rule changes? What are you thinking?
I'm a big fan of these rule changes. I just happened to be scrolling past them all at my desk this afternoon and dug into them a little bit. And, I'm a big fan. I mean, there's a whole lot that you just fired out there. So I'll just, rather than trying to respond to every little thing, I'll do, some quick thoughts. But, I really appreciate, the clarification of this sort of benefit goes to the player ruling. I don't think it happens perhaps as often as, I don't know, as it could or as one might think, but like we all have had, and I have had, situations where I've been on a card where, the player who's thrown gets to lobby with their buddy, and something that the other two people that are seeing the situation a little more clearly definitely can tell is out of bounds is ruled a tie, and thus the interpretation of the rules as they were previously written is, well, benefit goes to the player, the disc is in bounds, when a reasonable thinking human being that is not trying to preserve a friendship would say, no, that disc is not in bounds. So the removing the player from the first round of voting, and clarifying that you can't just like stay out of the vote either. Cause, there have been situations where, it's awkward on a card, right? If there's a situation that's close, I've found myself multiple times that I can think of saying, I don't know, it looks out of bounds to me. And it's up to you how you interpret that. You interpret that as a person not voting or as a person that's saying that disc is out of bounds. In the prior set of rules. And I think I've been on cards that have looked at that differently, where there are, say two people that strongly feel a disc is in bounds. Let's say I feel it's out of bounds, but I'm not sure. And the other player feels it's out of bounds for sure. How do you resolve that situation? In that situation, it firms up that vote for you and for anybody else. I really like the way it clarifies you're all participating in this evaluation of whether a disc is in bounds or not, and we're not going to allow for collaboration with the thrower. We're going to remove the thrower from the equation entirely. I really appreciate that. I also like the commentary from the PDGA talking about, the 30-second rule being outdated, looking to modernize it. It's my hope, maybe this is a little bit of an ambitious hope, but that, allowing a little more time in these situations that require 45 or that now can take up to 45 seconds, and clarifying that it, what has more time and why and what doesn't. Maybe we'll see a slightly quicker pace of play off of the T-pad drop zone and then putting, just because it's like, no, here are the situations where you get some more time, and here are the situations where you get 30 seconds because that's all you need. I'm hoping that improves pace of play. I mean, we all watch the Pro Tour. We've all seen Nico and Gannon and, whoever take 5.5 minutes for a putt, and maybe this puts a little more fire under their feet to putt a little bit quicker. I don't know. Again, maybe a little aspirational. That's my hope. I also appreciated the clarity and the fact that they cast a wide net in saying these are all the things that could count as, I don't know if the phrasing was evaluating your lie, or
addressing the lie,
and saying it's not just these things. These are some things that count. Addressing the lie includes marking with a mini, using a rangefinder, checking the wind, clearing obstacles. That just, as soon as you are doing things around your lie that will help you to think about or begin the process of taking your shot, clock's on. And it's not just these things. It is anything that, I'm just thinking of situations where individual players might have a specific thing that they do before a shot. And if they are dragging their feet time and time and time again, you can go, no, this is your process of addressing your lie. And, you got 45 seconds, man. I don't mind it if you take some time every once in a while, but this has been a lot. And the rule provides for not just this list of things, but this other thing that you might be doing that's not coming to mind now. But my first thought was, we've all played with players with like idiosyncrasies, and anything that allows for the same standard of rules to apply to somebody that maybe just has a slightly different way of like approaching the game, I think is good in leveling the playing field. I did like the clarity on provisionals as well, addressing missed Mandos, because obviously we enjoy talking about missed Mandos on this show. But also like not having it be purely pace of play, where there's it's things like, I'm not sure if I'm going to take my lie up there. I just want to keep things quick. Hopefully this allows for provisionals to be used when appropriate, but to discourage them from being used where they're not. So I liked that. And yeah, we all know the guy, like you were saying, whose disc lands on a rock in the middle of a river and is like, oh, it's not surrounded by water, bro. What are you talking about? I like that this makes it obvious that, like, okay, I don't care if there's a blade of grass. I don't care if your disc is on a rock. There are rushing rapids around it. You are out of bounds. I don't care if you can balance yourself on that rock and throw a standstill. No, that's not happening. I think that's about all the things that sort of stuck out to me. But I mean, this is sort of my first year where I'm like closely paying attention to rule changes. I feel like in the past it's been hey, here's the thing Sean will talk about, and Robbie and I will roll our eyes at him. But I did actually, I feel like I'm getting more into the nerdier aspects of the game, and I like took some time to read through these all independent of the fact we were recording tonight, and my initial instincts were that I really appreciated the rule changes. I think we are playing a pretty near perfect sport. I mean, we go to the woods and throw plastic around and like have fun, like hanging out with our friends. It doesn't get much better. But some of these little things that are like nagging and might cause slight issues every once in a while, the fact that they've been direct in addressing them, and I think the rule changes, with maybe the one exception being what you flagged on, at what point is something embedded? Like I wonder about a rule change where it's if, I don't know, the lowest possible point of this object is 3 inches below the plane of the ground, 6 inches, 12 inches, it is then considered embedded. If there was maybe a definition that would be a little more clear, I would agree that is something that maybe could be refined. But other than that, almost every single rule refinement, and even that one, that's being a little bit idiosyncratic, but that almost every rule adjustment like really picks out something that is legitimate and happens and doesn't affect every round. It affects some and clarifies it, makes it better. Yeah, I'm a big fan. That's a long-winded way of saying I also liked these rule changes, and I think we're definitely heading on the right track with them.
So in addition to when is something embedded or not, one of the other things I wasn't sure about, and I might ask a question to the PDGA, is with regards to the 30 seconds versus 45 seconds, what happens when those two zones overlap? For example, what happens if you're scrambling inside of circle 2? Circle 2 is up to 20 meters, and very frequently you can have dense brush or whatever within that circumference of the or diameter of the pin. And so in that case, which of the two applies? Is it always the more generous one? I would presume it would be, or is it the less generous one?
I could be
spirit
wrong.
of the rule is what can you effectively practice for, and you can't really practice for your disc landing in some random bush. So I would presume the 45 seconds would prevail in that circumstance.
I could be wrong, and I often am, but I actually think it's the inverse. If I had the rules pulled up, as I mentioned from earlier, and the actual phrasing is players are allotted time to throw as follows. 1, when making a throw from the teeing area, and then a rule is cited, a drop zone, rule is cited, or within 20 meters of the target, the player has 30 seconds to throw. And that is like an in and of itself thing.
Statement.
Yeah, statement. And then 2 is when making a throw from any other lie, the player has 45 seconds to throw. So I think even if you're scrambling, if you're within circle 2, unfortunately, it's just 30 seconds. I would, though, appreciate clarification on that for sure, too, because, I mean, it seems to me that the rule is cut and dry, but that also seems to make it a little unfair, maybe is too dramatic of a word, but yeah.
It would be contrary to the spirit of the rule.
Exactly. Yeah. I think the letter of the law is perhaps clear, but it would 100% be contrary to the spirit of it, and I wonder if there's a way to resolve that tension.
I don't know. It's a good question. I think I'll ask it of the PDGA. One other thing, I know we're not talking about Pro Tour, but one thing on the Pro Tour is pros will now be able. This was a proposed rule change from last year. The additional 30 seconds. Players will now be able to 2 times per round say, I need an extra 30 seconds for this given shot, and they will be able to take an additional 30 seconds. And card mates, if someone is going over the 30 seconds or has gone over the 30 seconds, card mates are required to then say, you have gone over your 30 seconds. You have taken one of your extra time extensions. They can impose it on you. And one of your 2 has been taken. I think that's a pretty reasonable rule. Sometimes in high pressure situations in a big putt, to win a tournament or, to take the lead, or you're in just some absolute garbage lie. And it's like, is there a line here? You maybe just need a little extra time. A couple times around, I think it's reasonable to have that flexibility, but also the responsibility on the other players to actually say, you have now used one of your extra times. And hopefully this will encourage players to call people on time violations, or what used to be a time violation, now it's an extra time, that they might have otherwise been very hesitant about before. We'll see if it helps change the culture around that kind of enforcement. We'll see. This doesn't apply to non-elite and majors. So, when I'm playing a C tier at White Spruce, I can't be like, 30 seconds, yo, taking it. Too bad, Sean. You should play faster.
Yeah, no, I actually really like that. That was something that I had missed. But it makes me think of poker, which is another one of my hobbies. Not as much now as it had been at times past, but when you're playing a poker tournament, the basic structure for folks that don't play is you get a set number of chips. There are set mandatory bets you have to make every time play continues around the table, and then the mandatory bets get higher and higher until eventually they're putting so much pressure on you it makes the play flow a little bit quicker until eventually there are no players left. Otherwise, theoretically, you go on forever. In poker tournaments, you can do what's called calling the clock on another player. So the idea here is that if any player is taking an inordinate amount of time with their decisions, and they're doing it on a consistent basis, and it's causing problems for the flow of play. And then if there are multiple tables and flow of play is at a normal pace at the other ones, and yours is taking way longer, it's actually to a disadvantage for you because you're able to play fewer hands while all these other tables are playing more, because this one friggin' guy will not quit taking an hour for every choice. There is that function built in. Now, in poker, there's no limit on the number of times you can call the clock, and it varies card house to card house. But typically, if somebody says, I am calling the clock, is what it's called on Sean Galbraith, in that moment, 60-second clock starts, and if the player has not completed their action by the end of that 60 seconds, their hand is automatically folded. And you can call that an unlimited number of times. But the mere existence of that sort of ability to invoke a change to the regular rules in the middle of the hand, I feel like compels people to actually use it. So I wonder if we were to introduce something similar across all tiers of sanctioned events at disc golf, and I would say maybe allow a little bit more than, like I think you might have said it was 2, if we're talking maybe like 5, maybe 6 times over the course of a tournament, maybe even over the course of a round might be reasonable, that instead of I would say, I guess, in addition to that offering an additional enforcement mechanism, if you make the number a little bit more generous, I think it actually would lead to more enforcement. If it's like just 2 times this person gets to add an extra 30 seconds to their putt, I feel like maybe people, cut somebody a little bit more of a break because they're like, okay, we're here for 3 days, 4 days. This is a long weekend. We're playing a lot of rounds. Do I want to be that guy that calls one of this guy's 2 hurry the hell up cards on him? But if you have like 5 or 6 and there's a way to track it through the Pdga app, and you can actually use those in a reasonable way over the course of a full event, I can actually see that leading to like serious increases in pace of play. Like if every once in a while, you can take a little bit extra, I think it's an extra incentive to take less time the rest of the time. And when people aren't doing that, it's an incentive on the other players to say, hey man, you know, if you want to take a minute, that's fine. You can do that 6 times. You can't do that every hole. You can't do that every putt. That's not how this works. So, very intrigued by that notion and curious to see if it evolves any further.
Absolutely. That's it for this week's episode of Rules School. And we're going to move on to registrations. Only a sprinkling of registrations this week. Friend of the show, Colleen McGinnis, is back with the amazing junior player, Brooklyn Okrafka. Brooklyn is doing a fundraiser tournament out at Bronte to help raise some funds for her 2025 tournament season, which is including Junior Worlds. So out at Bronte on June 28th. It's only $35 to play. By the time this episode is released, registration is already open, and I hope it fills up and she can raise a little bit of cash to help offset some of those costs. Next is an MVP Circuit Challenge going on at Cartwright Fields in Nestleton on August 16th. Registration for that opens up on June 1st. This is one of those 3-disc challenges that MVP puts on. Some great discs this year. I remember seeing which ones they were. Of course, I didn't actually make note of what they are. So, but you definitely want to sign up for them. They're super fun events. Mindy from the Disky Chicks is putting on this event, and she always runs a fantastic tournament. And then lastly, registration for Ontario Provincials opens June 2nd for those who have qualified. That is not me, and it will not be me. But for all of you other players who are not terrible, like I am, definitely get in that registration. Though I guess since you qualify, there's no big rush to do so. But Provincials is going to be a blast out in Guelph this year. Really, really looking forward to it. Yeah. But that
Sean,
is it. Yeah, go ahead.
Does it say on Disc Golf Scene when you can register for provincials if you missed qualifying by 1 stroke and then 2 strokes in your 2 qualifying tournaments?
Next
year. Are they going to decide when? Oh, next year.
I believe it's next year.
I didn't know if they'd shared that date yet.
I think it's specifically listed that Galen should throw a little bit better. In which case, you can qualify again next year. Too bad.
I will say just something super small that I missed before we jump to our tournament recaps. And when I was talking about my recent disc golf experiences, so I mentioned the Blackfly Fling that I missed qualifying by 2 strokes, and I'm going to continue to complain about it because I'm upset about it. But hilariously, I was coming into my final hole, and forgive me, I forget the numbers, but a relatively dicey one, but I birdied 2 out of 3 times in the first 3 rounds, and I stepped up, and I hadn't been checking scores for most of our final round, and I knew that I was probably within striking distance, but I might be in a provincial spot, I might be 5 or 6 strokes back, I wasn't sure based on where I was sitting, and I'm sitting in 4th, and I'm sitting 1 stroke back of the player who I would need to tie in order to qualify for provincials. And again, it's not an easy hole to birdie. It's about 260, 270 feet downhill, a big old tree, kind of tight, but birdieable. And I've done it twice this weekend. And so I'm on the tee pad. I've just checked the scores and I go, okay, all I have to do in order to qualify for provincials is birdie this hole. That's it. He's got 1 hole left. It's a hole I think he's going to par. All I got to do is birdie it. I get up, do my pre-shot routine, standing on the tee pad, deep breath in and out. And I just crank it into the first available tree. Like, it just was never even remotely in play. In this moment, it was this big moment where I was like, all I got to do is nail this. And then just immediately left maybe 90 feet off the tee pad, just complete garbage. And so I got what I deserved. But I just realized that I forgot that anecdote because that was hilarious to me, that I was in that moment. I was okay. You got this. And then I did not got that at all remotely. Anyway, on from tournament registrations and on to tournament recaps. Sean, did you want to take us through the Foxwood Open? Okay, I see you pointing at me. Sure, I'd be happy to. Well, as far as Foxwood is concerned, we start in Baden, Ontario. Baden, for a tournament that has become a staple of the May disc golf calendar, the Foxwood Open, which once again this year was a USDGC and Throw Pink qualifying tournament for MPO and FPO. And in FPO, Chantal Badinsky showed why she's the two-time defending champ of this event, leading by 3 strokes after round 1, 6 strokes after round 2, and went wire to wire for the win by 7 strokes for a Foxwood three-peat. Alex Paletto took second, and Rebecca Dawn rounded out the podium in third. Over on the MPO side, it was another two-time defending champ looking to three-peat, with Thomas Gilbert back in the field, but the defending champ found himself tied for second and 4 shots back of Lance Brown after the first 2 rounds of play. However, came to life in the final round, shooting an incredible bogey-free 1056 rated -10 for the hot round of the tournament to come behind and win by 3 whole strokes. 15-year-old Wyatt Mahoney also had a great final round to lock up second place and secure a USDGC qualification, and Lance Brown slid back just a teensy bit to third place there to round out the podium. In the top amateur divisions, it was youngster Brooklyn Okrafka of the Canada Day tournament we were just talking about, of course, and of Facebook Reel fame with her shot from our missed Mando tournament. But disc golfer extraordinaire taking the win by 3 strokes in FA1. Her first FA1 win, first of many, I'm sure, in her burgeoning career, with Courtney White in second and Danielle McBride in third. In MA1, Robbie has written, "It is yours truly," as he wrote this section of the script, but it is not myself truly, it is Robbie Holden, who is not with us currently, who failed miserably, he says, at his title defense. But Kyle DeGost, who had an amazing tournament, leading after every round and taking down the win by 2 strokes, with Tanner Nordum in second, Ethan Eckenstein and Nate Framst tying for third. Sean, did you have any thoughts or any aces you wanted to shout out for the Foxwood Open?
Giving shout outs this week to Adam Hazel and Mike Yashtenko. They both aced hole 15, 255-foot shot. Hope you got the ace pot, boys, and took home a little extra cash. In the other divisions, there was only one that was super close with a 1-stroke victory. It was Joe Finkelman over Adam Hazel, Mr. Ace, over in MP50. The rest were, a little more, 3 strokes, sometimes more. But amazing fights over at Foxwood. Such a fun event, such a fun tournament. Really like Foxwood. I'm not usually a big golf course guy, but I really like how they use the wooded areas between the fairways. It's not just throw across a fairway and then throw across another fairway. It's, there's some shot shapes that you got to do. Really keeps it interesting. The redesigned ladder holes, super long, really challenging. They always put on a fantastic event there, and this year was no exception.
Yeah, and every year, without exception, I say the exact same thing when Foxwood rolls around, which is, my goodness, I am playing it next year. I hear every year how much fun it is, and I go, oh my god, I'm not missing it next year. And through some combination of just not paying attention and not being in a disc golf mindset with how early the registration opens and God knows what else, I just miss it every year. And so I will say once again to myself right now, no. Next year, I'm going to get out there and I'm going to play, but most likely I will forget again and wind up playing Blackfly Fling and having a blast because that tournament's great too. And speaking of the Blackfly Fling, next for our tournament recap, we will head north, not like crazy north, but pretty north to South River, Ontario for another staple on the May disc golf calendar in Ontario. The 22nd, I believe, annual Blackfly Fling, which was the 6th stop on the 2025 Ontario Tour. FPO had just a 2-player field, with Colleen McInnes taking down a casual 63 stroke win over Anna Olin. Anna, I'm so sorry if I'm not saying your last name correctly. I know we know each other. I never said your last name out loud. Anna's a great player, but I would say probably taking a shot up. I've seen her typically playing FA1 with like some FPO sprinkled in there. Still pretty early in the season, so perhaps this is a sign of things to come, and she's going to take that division by storm. But it's a pretty honorable tournament holding court with Colleen in any capacity. So props to Anna for hanging with her, and props to Colleen for a great weekend with a 997 rated round 3 Colleen had. This is her 3rd win of the season in just 6 events that she has played so far. And rounding out her performance this year, she has 2 seconds and a 4th in the other 3 events. So she is not, let alone the top 5, she's not missed the top 4 in an event yet this season. Over in MPO at Blackfly, we saw a good battle early with Chris O'Zalins, friend of the pod, holding a 1-stroke lead over other friend of the pod, Chris Brown, through the first 2 rounds. But then Chris said see ya to the rest of the field as he shot a career high 1061 rated -14 in round 3 to push his lead to 10. And I'm just going to, again, a little bit of editorial comment here. As somebody that was there, shooting a -14 in the conditions we dealt with the 3rd round is absolutely insane. The Tom Thompson Park course is just off of, I don't know what body of water it is, but just adjacent to a lake. And the wind was absolutely ripping off that lake. It was most evident in the 2 or 3 holes that ran directly along the bank of the lake. But like every single one of the holes that were out in the open, of which I would say probably half the course or so, the wind was absolutely ripping. It was doing whatever the heck it wanted to your discs. I would ask my disc to do something and they would say, no way, no how. And, I'm not that great, but I finished 4th in MA2. Like, I'm not that terrible at this. And I played terrible that day because of those conditions. I just really want to emphasize -14 in those conditions specifically is unconscionable. That was insane. Massive props to Chris. And he followed it up with, the hot round in the final round as well to take the win by a whopping 19 strokes, with Dan Boma shooting up into 2nd and Chris Brown, also repping Brawny, finishing 3rd place to round out the podium. And over in the top divisions, on the amateur side, Alyssa Saunders had to share the lead after round 1 and the outright lead after every other round to go wire to wire to an eventual 6-stroke lead over Tam Seawalk and Darlene Gibson, finishing in 3rd. In MA1, Max No was within 1 stroke of the lead after rounds 1 and 2, but battled ahead in rounds 3 and 4 en route to a 6-stroke win over Trent Dunford, with Jeremy Brister rounding out the podium in 3rd. And medium-sized Jeremy, I'm going to put you on a little bit of blast here because I love this. We ran into each other the 2nd day of the tournament, it was the 1st day of the tournament? Some morning. It must have been Saturday because the Sunday the diner wasn't open. At the diner, getting breakfast at 7:30 in the morning. I was like, "Hey, Jeremy, how you doing, man?" He's like, "I am more hungover than I have ever been." And he proceeded to kick ass all weekend. It must have been that greasy diner breakfast that got it done to finish 3rd on the podium. So big props to big/medium germ. Love to see it. Shawnee G, thrown over to you if you want to highlight some aces here and perhaps add some thoughts of your own.
It was an ace fest up at the Fling, with 4 aces recorded on 4 different holes, which is really cool to see. First, Daniel Bauma, hole 7, 283 foot, drained it. James Meacham, hole 8, 222 foot. Justin Greenwood, hole 5, 210 foot. And the pride of White Spruce, Mike Pelly. Mike, hole 12, 210 foot, tournament ace. Absolutely love it. Let's go. The Fling, I've only played it. Spruce, of course. I've only played casual round up on that course, and it's really fun. It is a great course. Playing 4 rounds on that is 22 hole layout or something like that. Like, it's an extended course.
It's 20. So, I mean,
20,
you're playing 80
Set
holes
race.
inside of 24 hours, essentially. Maybe a little bit more when you go from the start of the first end of the fourth. It's a lot of disc golf.
It's a lot of it's grueling disc golf. You're surviving that tournament. What a great event. I hopefully maybe next year I will be able to make it up for the 23rd annual Fling. Haven't been able to do it yet, but I gotta spend the next year working out and building up my stamina to actually just make it through the event. I'm really glad to see how well it was received and how well it was put on. Only one division was actually within one stroke. The others were degrees of blowy outs and multiple stroke victories. But over in MA40, Taylor Clark took it down by one stroke over Pdga. I'm assuming that's how you pronounce his last name. Taylor almost gave it away towards the end, taking a bogey on 19 when Jay took a par, got him within one stroke, but birdies for both of them on hole 20 sealed the deal, and Taylor held on to take down the title. Good for Taylor. Well done. And
I will say,
go ahead.
Not impossible. That's how it played out. However, it was shotgun starts. So I don't know that their last two holes were 19 and 20 per se, but I prefer that narrative where it ended with a birdie for the champ. So let's just say that that's what happened.
100%. Let's just make it up. This is not a well-researched podcast. We just invent stuff entirely.
Of course. And last sort of quick comment on the black fly. I believe it was Justin Greenwood that had that sick ace I was talking about, on hole 5 over the water, tree, wind, basket. I only had it explain me, but I heard the chains. We were on the following tee pad and I was like, somebody aced? How is that even possible? And the story was even more mind blowing. So major shout out to Justin.
In the interest of journalistic integrity, I had a look. Round 4, MA40, they started on hole 9. So I will paint a picture. It is, let's say hole 5. Taylor is, I don't know, up by, let's say 2. Jay gets a birdie. Taylor gets a par. It's down to 1. Next hole. Jay bogeys. Par town for Taylor. Back to 2. Second last hole. Jay birdies. Taylor still on the par train. Gets it back to 1. Final hole. They both par. Seals the deal. Well done, Taylor. So just ignore all that other stuff. But yeah, that hole 5 is such a sick shot. Huge risk reward on that one, because if you miss, you'd got a death putt going back right at the lake. I think I saw a video of maybe Mike Renton from Spruce draining that comebacker putt straight into a headwind. Man, high stress putt on that hanging basket. Super, super fun shot.
Yeah, 100%. I had a comebacker there once where just wind off the water, threw it up, and they have an OB line at the top of that hill to prevent crossplay in the fairways. And so I'm putting back down, and the most gentle putt of my entire life. It's maybe 11 feet, but into just a ripping headwind. And it just went and hit like dead center, a little bit left chains, and dropped on the inside. And then the wind blew it up and over and out and dropped straight down. And I was like, just don't roll away. Just don't roll away. Just don't roll away. So, and it didn't, thank God, but from experience, it is a nervy putt. So, anybody that, can stand there and make that, you got ice in your veins. With that done, Sean, shall we continue to rock and or roll to some Pro Tour recaps?
Absolutely.
All right.
We head next to Shelton Springs Disc Golf Course in Shelton, Washington for the 2025 Cascade Challenge. Last year, this was a Silver Series, 2023 was a Silver Series. Last year, it was a Q Series. And this year, he gets the full promotion to a DGPT event. The fields were a little thinner this time, especially in FPO, with a lot of the Euros heading back across the pond, getting ready for Konopište. But the number 3 player in the world standings, Missy Gannon, was still in the field. And she shot an incredible 10.35 rated -10 in the final round to come from 2 strokes behind to win by 6 strokes over Owen Scoggins and Paige Pierce, who tied for second. Over in the MPO field, almost all of the heavy hitters were there, including Anthony Barella, who was able to tie the final round, hot round, en route to a 2-stroke win over Simon Lizotte, with Ricky Wysocki rounding out the podium in third. Nice to see Anthony take down that win. Nice to see Simon up in contention again. He's not always up there. And Ricky Wysocki's always reliable to be sniffing around in the podium. Galen, any thoughts over on Cascade Challenge, or should we go right to our picks recap?
Not a whole lot to add, but yeah, no, nice with a thinner field, still to see some, theoretically, competition between, Missy and Owen and Paige. Like, it's not as if it was, it was a thinned out field, but not just slouches. We have the 3rd and 2nd highest rated players in the world, I believe, so let's go. And then over in MPO, yeah, anytime that Simon is hanging right at the top of a tournament, it makes me happy because he is so good for the sport. And yeah, I feel like Ricky's kind of had some peaks and valleys, but he's generally been around it this year. I'm waiting for that breakthrough performance. Like, it just felt like last year it was Gannon and then Ricky and then everybody else. And I'm just really hoping Ricky can refine some of that form. So, hey, a podium at Cascade does not hurt that at all. So yeah, over to picks. Sean, you had AB. And you had Cat Merch. I had Ricky and Owen Scoggins. And Robbie had his, creative as always choices, Matthew Lopez and Allison Kennewick. Sean, you had Anthony, again, who took it down. And Cat Merch finished tied for 13th. So averaged 7th between the two of them. Pretty friggin' solid. I had Ricky and Owen, as mentioned. So Ricky finished in 3rd and Owen in 2nd. So averaged 2.5. It's not first, but that's pretty good. Let me toot my own whatever, pat myself on the whatever. I don't mind that. And Robbie, who had, actually, you know what? He didn't have Matthew Lopez and Allison Kennewick. I shouldn't be ridiculous. He revised his picks. Tyler the Missile Bissell. And who did he have on the FPO side? Because he sent us those updated picks and it's thrown me off.
Yeah.
Was it Allison freaking Kennewick? It was somebody freaking something, and I'm going to kick myself for not remembering in this moment. But in any event, Robbie, we appreciated your picks. We thought they were kind of a little bit too creative for us, though, so we thought we would assign you some picks of players that are regularly on the Pro Tour and podiuming. Not that we don't love any of those players we rattled off for you, and we don't want to see them have success, but we thought, just in the interest of fairness, didn't want to just let you make stupid picks. We would, we would try to keep you in contention here so we don't run up the clock. So we gave you Gannon Burr and Holland Hanley, which I know are picks that would shock you, people you would never choose. But Gannon finished in 5th, Holland in 5th. So we've got Sean averaging 7th, me averaging 2.5, and Robbie averaging 5th, with Gannon and Holland both at 5. And that does it for the Cascade Challenge. Sean, over to you for our next Pro Tour recap, or our tournament recap, I should say.
Next, we head across the Atlantic for the first European DGPT event of the season, taking us to Prague in the Czech Republic. Beautiful.
No such thing. Czechia, Sean. Get it together.
Both, I believe, are accurate. And the beautiful Franz Ferdinand course, which is set on the grounds of a literal castle. There are peacocks walking around the course. And it was the last resident of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, who went on to have a band in the late 90s, I believe, who had a couple hits. I don't think he's known for anything else of note. Over in FPO, world number 1, Kristen Lett, becomes the first player to get to 3 wins this season, doing it in only 5 events. Man, what a record. Winning by 4 strokes over Silva Saarinen with Rachel Turton from England. Another fourth strokes back in third. Over in MPO, Mauri Vilman becomes the 7th different player to collect a win this season and winning his first career Elite Series with a 6-stroke victory over Lauri Lehtinen, who was making his tour return, with Nestori Tukkanen rounding out the podium in third. Mauri's 1067 event average is the 3rd highest of the season so far. Galen, with the time difference, it was a bit tough to actually watch this event, and I was out in Dieppe. So it was kind of interesting. You wake up in the morning and it's like, oh, FPO is on hole 17 and it's 7:30 in the morning. This is kind of wild. Did you have a chance to watch any of it? Have you seen this course before? It is really beautiful.
No, I have to admit I'm in the same position as you are, where I would wake up and check the scores, catch the odd clip on socials. But the time difference kind of threw me off. And the fact that I was camping that weekend kind of threw me off too, because I was in the middle of nowhere. And in any event, I was really happy to see the way things shook out. I feel like Mauri has had some really solid results, but nice to see him take it down. And like a fat prize pool too, $8,500 US. That is some serious bank. But seeing some of our sort of European faithful around the top, Mauri Vilman, Lauri Lehtinen, Väinö Makala, Silver Let finding his way into a top 10. I guess Kristen was not on the bag, or else he would have performed more poorly. So it was interesting, and I liked seeing some of those players, the European players in the spotlight. I mean, it's not as if every single pro player was there, but like Paul Ulibarri was there, Ezra Aderhold was there. What was the other name that I was just thinking? James Conrad was there, and all due respect to them, like they were in the middle to not quite the bottom of the field, but they were not in contention. And so I like seeing some of the local pros, if local can be used as a term to capture anybody who is from Europe when you're in Europe, sort of running away with it. So, love to see it. But yeah, I will confess, I didn't get to catch any of the live coverage, unfortunately. So it is what it is, but loved the results as I saw them.
With the European swing, I think what they're calling the European summer, with that coming up, it's going to be interesting to see how much of the live coverage we can actually get a chance to watch. I mean, for MPO, it'll be super easy because it's going to start at like 10 in the morning or something like that. FPO, a little bit tougher. We're going to be getting up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning to be able to catch the thing. It's, we've been spoiled. We're very spoiled here in North America, especially in the Eastern time zone. To be able to,
what, Sean? I am going to be having, I will not be having specifically, my wife will be having on our behalf a baby soon. And I am anticipating being on the night shift. So I imagine this is the one summer where I actually might be able to watch some of this live. I don't know how much I'll be able to comprehend it based on the level of tired that I expect to be, or whether I'll be on our episodes, because I anticipate my life will be a little bit crazy to provide any color commentary. But I might be the only one amongst the three of us that is actually perhaps, I'm not going to say for sure, but perhaps going to be able to catch the some of these tournaments live. So never say never.
That's very true. It's very true. I hadn't actually considered that, but yeah, you might
be in one arm,
the only ones.
DGPT on. Yeah,
it's perfect. The timing could not be any better. Congratulations to you for being able to watch the Pro Tour. That's fantastic.
Speaking of the Pro Tour, shall we move on to our Pro Tour preview, our lone Pro Tour preview for the week?
Sure, let's do it.
Let's do it. We got the North. Wet.
We going to do it?
Hit it.
We're both going to do it? Who's going to do it?
Shawnee, you're up.
May 29th to June 1st, the Pro Tour will swing down to Portland for the Northwest Disc Golf Championship, a 4-day DGPT Plus event featuring the Pro Tour playing at the amazing Milo McIver and Glendoveer East is brought to you by the organizing teams behind the Portland Open and the Beaver State Fling. They're like Voltron combining for one mega tournament, and it's gonna be incredible. These are two of the most amazing courses on tour. Having them both in one event, absolutely a no-brainer. Last year at the Portland Open, it was Paige Pierce clawing her way to a 2-stroke victory. She was 4 strokes back after the first round. That put her behind Owen Scoggins, Kat Murch, and Big Money Missy. She worked her way into a tie for third after the second round and vaulted into first with a 1,009 rated third round and stuck there with a solid final day. She finished 2 strokes ahead of Holland Handley and friend of the pod, Sophia Dunica, who really burst onto the Pro Tour stage in a big way on that podium. After making her sort of television debut at the Las Vegas Challenge, man, she really put an exclamation mark on Portland. Over in MPO last year, it was Gannon Burr with a decisive 8-stroke victory. He went wire to wire, leading by 2 after 1, 6 after 2, 10 after 3, giving a little bit back on the final day, but still finishing with a neg 33 to local boy Cole Redolin's -25 and Ricky's -23, of really convincing victory. Last year at the Beaver State Fling, Holland Handley held off Owen Scoggins in a dramatic sudden death playoff that saw her break through with her first Elite Series win. I think you remember, that was where she drained some like big ass clutch and was like, "That's so clutch." Like, yes, it was. Over at MPO sides, it was Gannon Burr again, though this time in a slightly more dramatic fashion. Only 6 strokes back for 12th place after round 1. Shot top 5 rounds on days 2 and 3 to vault to a 1-stroke lead over Ezra Robinson and again Ricky Wysocki. Last year's Beaver State Fling MPO was super tight with just 5 strokes separating 5th and 12th. I don't know about you, Galen, but I am so excited for this combination event. I love these courses. It's going to be so cool to watch 4 rounds of play across these two. It's going to be 2 rounds. First 2 rounds are going to be at Milo McIver. Second 2 rounds over at Glendoveer East. I mean, what can you say? It's going to be amazing.
Oh, totally. I cannot wait. I will, though, quickly just fess up as the scriptwriter who made a mistake there in not deleting something. 5 strokes separating first and 12th. It was tight at the top. So from Gannon to 12th place was 5 strokes. There were a lot of people that were right in and around it. And yeah, 2 great courses. I love seeing these 2 teams come together to put this together. I think it's going to be a blast. So, very excited for it. With that said, I'm going to recommend that we get into some picks, Sean. And I believe this week we have you up first. So if you want to hit us with your MPO and FPO picks, let's hear them.
Let's see here. So we do not have the Euros in town. So that frankly makes things a little bit easier on the FPO side. I'm going to go on the FPO side. I'll start there. I'm going to go with Paige Pierce. I want this for her. I want her to really take this thing down. She does great on the West Coast. She's won multiple events out this way. I'll take Paige. She's at a bit of a Paige-assance right now. And we'll take her for the win there. Over in MPO, little tougher. Let's go. I don't think I've taken Gannon Burr this year in any picks, so I'm going to just take him off the board. I'll go chalk with MPO. I'll take Gannon Burr.
Yeah, I don't hate either of those choices at all. I mean, Paige obviously putting on a clinic last year, and then this year she's been in I was going to say top form, maybe not for her, because top form is like the best FPO player of all time, but like very close to top form. So, super dig it. I am going to take Ricky again, finished on the podium for me at Cascade. And again, I feel like he has been all over it, and just hasn't quite broken through to last year's form. But given he podiumed both events that are being combined into this event last year, and, has had some really, great moments, I'm going to lock in Ricky. Over on the FPO side, things are a little bit trickier. I think, I can't get this name out of my head though. She busted out in a big way last year. I have loved her play this year. I'm going to put Sofia Dunica in as my pick over on the FPO side. I really like her play. I really like her play at this event. Let's go Sophia, and let's go Ricky. And Robbie has been messaging me throughout this little pick moment here that we've had, Sean. So he said that he wanted to go with Isaac the Missile Robinson on the MPO side, and Own Freakin' Scoggins were the names that he gave me for FPO. So,
are you sure that he didn't want Nicholas Ackerman, the pride of Wilsonville, Oregon, coming in at 934 for MPO, and Candace Boyce? Or Boise.
Yeah. No, sorry. Yeah, I was reading the ones he said, don't pick these players.
Yeah, don't pick
I was
those
reading
ones.
the wrong message.
Yeah, he
so
wants
Nick Ackerman and sorry, the ones
Boyce.
that he wants. Yeah.
Yeah. 865 rated from Westland, Oregon. I'm pretty sure those are the people that he meant to tell you.
100%. Yeah. No, I just read the wrong thing. Yeah. That's my bad.
And of course, we got to give a shout out to the Canadian Air Force, who are taking on this event. Friends of the show, Thomas Gilbert, Rebecca Dawn, and of course, your pick, Sophia Donica. And then another one, Kieran Atkinson out of Vancouver. 4 Canadians in the field.
Is this perhaps James Atkinson's long lost twin?
I have absolutely no idea.
He's from
I gotta
Yukon,
put in,
so probably no relation, but
who knows?
Who knows?
But that reminds me. I'm going to put in I'm going to drop in a picture somewhere around here of James Atkinson's outfit from round 3 in Dieppe. It is absolutely spectacular. You're going to love it.
Love that. And yeah, shout out James for finishing, I believe, second in the end. He powered his way up. Was really proud of him, and really proud of another friend of mine, Paul Fenney, for taking down MA2 convincing fashion. Tobin Isaac third. Like I said, it felt like all of Ontario was there. Every story I heard was good, and probably because a lot of them played really, really well. So I can't wait to see James's outfit in the here, wherever it's going to be.
Somewhere in the there. Yeah. And that is going to bring this short interview-free episode to a close. Have fun, everybody out there, over the next couple weeks. If you're playing the Abbey Gardens Open and CWE this weekend, or maybe the Discape Challenge in Brantford, or the Glitch World Championship out at Christie Lake, maybe Nico's Drive in Peterborough. Of course, the 2 big events, Dreammaker and Gaps Gambit, or maybe even the Sully Cup out at Bronte. There's so many great tournaments out there, so many amazing tournament directors giving us all a chance to play. And I hope you get out there and take down a win, and so we can shout your next ace out here on the show. And that's it. So on behalf of my friend and co-host Galen Naidu-Harris and the absent Robbie Holden, I am Sean Galbraith, and we will see you there out on the course.